Hello and welcome to Furious Driving, and this is a little bit different for the beginning of the video. Normally I will start my videos driving something along to hear the rev of the engine and see what's going on, but this time I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted you to take a look at this thing and drink it in and just appreciate what you're about to see, because this isn't the run-of-the-mill video on the run-of-the-mill car. This is possibly the most ubiquitous car or van of the British roads of the 1970s and 80s, even into the early 1990s. There were hundreds, if not thousands, of these little Vauxhall / Bedford HA vans running around the country because they were bought in their droves by British Telecom, the GPO, by the gas board, by all the utilities. They had hundreds of them. They are such a byword for small van in the 1980s that Postman Pat's van is even rumoured to be one of these things. Imagine that in red and you're basically there. So I want you to get this into your mind and think now, what looks different about this van? What is unusual? And there's not a lot apart from the colour. Maybe the banded wheels might give a clue that something's not quite normal here. Because the stance is right, the colour's wrong, but wait till you see the engine bay, because this is a Q van. You've seen a Q car before. Have you seen a Q van? So the HA van started in 1964 and it ran incredibly for nearly 20 years to 1983, even though the car it was based on was cancelled or replaced in 1966. It's based on the Cadet A platform, although the Cadet and the Vauxhall really shared nothing beyond the floor pan. They were designed completely in separate states. And over in Germany, the Cadet actually offered an estate car variant. It was something they didn't get on this version of the Viva over here, although there was an aftermarket conversion you could actually buy by the same people who became Dormobile. They did an estate conversion out of the van later on. Anyway, this particular van is a 1970 example, and if you look through little gaps in the paint every now and then, you can see the Busby yellow, which gives its clue, or not much of a clue, an absolute 100% definite guess that this was a British Telecom van running around servicing the wires. There were basically 3 engines you could get for this, and all of them were very heavily challenged in the horsepower department. This came with the 1.2 litre 32.2 horsepower engine, which is, well, I can imagine painfully slow. They were even later throttled even further, I think by the post office, with a 17mm carburettor bore, and I can only imagine how painful that was to drive. This car, though, has had a life. It arrived with its current owner, Matt, with an upgrade to a later Vauxhall engine, I think a 1300. But that wasn't really where he wanted it to go. There's a bit of a story with this car. It was abandoned after its previous owner, I think, passed away, and it's parked up between 2001 and 2021. And that's when Matt started playing with it. Let's open the bonnet and have a quick look at what the good stuff is on this van. So I lift the bonnet. Well, it says Vauxhall on it, but I'm 100% certain it isn't, because this is something I'm very familiar with. It's the engine out of a Unos Roadster, squeezed just about into the engine bay of the HA van. Can you imagine the performance difference? Well, you don't have to imagine, I'm going to show you in a second. From 32 horsepower to about 115, plus a 5-speed gearbox, and well, just so much better in every way. So this is actually not too bad of a fit. It looks like Matt's done a big notch just here, but in fact this is mostly standard, only taking a little bit out of the back just here to make it fit, and also removing the heater box because there's no room for that. Custom made engine mounts made it fit, and a custom made gearbox mount, and because this is a rear wheel drive van to start with, it's a surprisingly easy fit, and well, like a glove pretty much. Perhaps my favourite thing of this entire build is the Vauxhall badge on top of the Mazda rocker cover, which gives it a little air of legitimacy. It makes it seem genuine and real. And of course we do have the Guinness catch can on the radiator as well. It's amazing how well this fits in. This is incredible. The mounts themselves are made of a combination of tubular steel, home cut plates and Land Rover Defender rubber mounting, so pretty easy to do really, simple and effective. Now inside these vans it was fairly basic from the factory. In some ways it's a little bit more basic now as we're now missing whatever floor covering it originally had, but in some other ways we've gone a bit new school because we've got additional seats, which I'm going to suggest are probably from an MX5 looking at them, so matching the engine, although not fitted at the same time. These are fitted by a previous interim owner. The door card is as it came from the factory, very, very Vauxhall indeed, with this checker pattern embossed into the textured vinyl, little tiny window winder, little door handle, little door pull, all very Vauxhall in the 1960s. In front of us on the dashboard, got the standard instrument cluster, fuel, temperature, warning lights for ignition and oil, and an MPH speedometer, which goes up to 140. However, that's not the original speedometer. This is lifted directly from the MX5 or the UNOS Roadster and turned out to be almost exactly the right fit for the hole left by the Vauxhall one. And even more of a coincidence, the mileage was broadly the same on the two cars as well, which was a real bonus. And looking down below the large steering wheel, I can just about get far enough back to show that to you, with the Bedford Scary Griffin in the centre. We've got 3 pedals because it is a manual. And you might have noticed down here near the temperature gauge, these Wilwood slave cylinders, because there wasn't enough room for the servos and things and everything to fit underneath the bonnet with the new engine, so it has been a little bit of an upgrade to make it all work and fit around where it needs to be. But what is very interesting is this is not the standard centre area of the van. This is taken, we think, from a Mark II Escort, which has been then adapted on the gearbox itself to move the gear shifter linkage forward about 30 centimetres here to where it comes out in the van. So it would have popped up here where the handbrake is had it been left in the original position from the Mazda. But we have now standard H pattern still, but a 5-speed rather than the old 4-speed. A big upgrade. And one really fun, curious little thing of Vauxhall work vans in this era, this little notch in the window. I think we've covered this previously. You can wind it down a centimetre or so and you get a little smoker's area. I mean, never mind no smoking in work vehicles today. In those days you needed apparently to smoke all the time, so they made it possible you'd smoke in the rain or the snow or any other condition you like at all. Different times indeed. 2 things we have not covered, of course, are the T-shelf, and it's a very lowly T-shelf. There is a good flat area, but only good enough for quite small trinkets. I'm going to say wine gums will just about fit there, and obviously a pack of cigarettes to go with your smoker's window. And the horn test. That is the part that is as mismatched and curious as the mismatching body and engine of this particular vehicle. And of course, because it is a van, it is a super useful practical classic, which can be used for all kinds of practical classic adventuring. You can go camping, you can go collecting parts, bits for your classic cars, you can take stuff to the skip. I know the owner of this car does an awful lot of sort of home workshopping on his cars and friends' cars, and all the tools and things will fit happily in the back of here. You can fit wings and bumpers and all sorts. So a super handy classic car, more useful than a Mini. Right, let's get this thing out on the road and see what it's like in the real world. Oh wow, that does not sound like a 30 horsepower Viva HA engine, my goodness. Now I will tell you before you start commenting, the ignition light never goes out. Don't know why, just a thing. And not all the gauges work as such, but the car seems to be fine. So this engine and gearbox were actually sourced from a crashed UNOS Roadster. So this is a JDM spec Vauxhall Viva HA van, or Bedford HA van. Now I'm only doing 40 miles an hour, but it really feels quick because there's no carpet, no sound deadening, not even in the ceiling, it's just bare metal with a bit of a stone chip painting on the ceiling. It is very loud indeed. This is an amazing bit of work, because even though the gear shift has been moved to 6 inches, 30 centimetres forward, the linkage works perfectly. That wonderful Mazda MX5 UNOS Roadster, or Miata if you like, gearbox feel is there. Now the suspension on this thing is all leaf springs. It's leaf springs on the back, transverse leaf with double wishbones at the front, but as though it's designed to have a load in the back of the thing, so it is quite bouncy. Oh, that sounds good. It's got a real feel like a Mark II Escort, you know, and oh, indicators on the right hand side, just like on a Mazda or an old British car. And the brakes, even though they are disc brakes all round, because they're small enough to fit inside those little 12-inch wheels, they're not the biggest in the world, and so you do have to put quite a bit of a push on the pedal. What a great noise! It sounds amazing. Honestly, it's almost hard not to light the back tyres up. It's so keen to just spin the back wheels with so little weight in the back. Now, when I was thinking about filming this, I was imagining this would be really good for a turbo conversion, because that's a great modification for an MX5. But having driven it, I don't think it needs it. I think you'd need more weight in the back before you did that, otherwise you'd just be constantly lighting up the back wheels. In fact, it turns out when Matt first fitted this engine, it was turbocharged, but he soon decided it was just too frantic, and with that light back end, couldn't put its power down, so he removed that turbo and went to carburetors. But that wasn't right either, so now it's running the original spec Mazda fuel injection. I love the sound of it. It's like being in, whoa, that's a bit of a funny, slightly wayward feel to the suspension there. About being an old Mark II Escort or something, the sound of it. Bloody hell. Brakes do take a heck of a push. Steering is incredibly light. I don't think you can see my face in that angle from where the camera is, but I am grinning like an idiot right now. The steering gets incredibly light. Bear in mind the top speed on this thing when it was new was probably only about 65 with such a small engine. This is an entirely new vehicle. That engine has transformed it. At 50 miles an hour up this lane does feel really quite quick because of how light the front end is. But the engine has got so much more to give. I'm absolutely loving the sound of it. Shunting the grunt from the Miata powertrain to the back wheels, we have a custom prop shaft which uses the front of a Mazda drive shaft. It goes back to a Ford Anglia 105E Harry Potter spec back axle, which is just the right width to tuck the banded wheels neatly inside the arches, and the disc brake conversion, these came with drums around as standard, came from an SL90 Viva fitted by a previous owner. Gosh, it's willing to rev. This is mad, I love it! There's one other little idiosyncrasy I was told about before I set off. The oil pressure light only comes on when you flash the main beams at the moment, because there's currently not an oil pressure gauge separate for the engine. In a way that an HA van really should not drive. Now I can't do a full-on 0 to 60 on this road, but we can do a bit of a that sounds so good. The problem is you hit the speed limit in third. Feels so much faster than it actually is, which is a good thing because you can be hooning around having a whale of a time, but at the same time not actually be going that quickly. This thing is brilliant. day only car, but it is a car he uses all of the time, just because, well, partly it's so fun and partly it's so useful. And the Mazda gearbox is simplicity itself, and a 5-speed is so versatile. It makes the car, well, semi-relaxed almost when you're driving it day to day. What is a lovely story about this car is that the previous owner remembers it belonging to his granddad and driving it down to the Isle of Wight, and these are directions written on the back of the sun visor of how to get there. Junction 10 for A2, Portsmouth. That's so sweet. Real family history. And that guy, the granddad, was into steam trains. So this car was brush painted in the colour of a particular steam train, which the new owner has matched when he spray painted it. Isn't that fantastic history? That's what I love about old cars, is the stories that go with them. It makes them come alive.
This all looks so fast on screen, but in reality it's about 40 miles an hour most of the time. That's 64 km/h.
Oh, just listen to that.
The exhaust is a mix of Mini and Mark II Escort parts, which has to help it make that oh so Mark II Escort sound.
It sounds phenomenal. Because of the way the front end lightens up, I don't really want to take it beyond about sort of 40 or 50 miles an hour. I still want to get used to it, be confident enough in the thing to know how to predict how it'll handle. But just getting to that 40 or 50 miles an hour is just so quick, it's just amazing. Because the van weighs virtually nothing, these 1960s and 70s things were just little hollow tin boxes. This one's got even less in it. It's just got front seats and a rear bed, nothing else. It's carrying no weight at all. This car though does have one little tiny hidden secret. I don't know if it was factory, I don't think it is. I think it was probably a tax dodge kit that was fitted to it. It's actually got rear seats that fold up out of the floor of the back. A very unusual little addition to the car. Oh look, I don't think you can see it through the camera, it's an MX5 going to the petrol station. I've got your engine, mate. So what do you think of this conversion? Is this a sacrilegious thing to have taken the original little wheezy 32 horsepower 4-cylinder out of this car and ruined it with a modern engine? Or is this absolute genius and has transformed a virtually unusable old classic into a super usable, really handy modern classic? I know what I think. I'm 100% down with this. This is absolutely wonderful. If you like this, please, as always, hit like and of course subscribe. And join us again next time driving something completely different.